Today we'll be looking at how to use the Rotobrush in After Effects. The Rotobrush allows us to separate a foreground image from a background image. So think of it as another way of removing an object without having a green screen. So to start this process, we need to open up Adobe After Effects. Then you need to import an image or video. You do so by selecting File, Import, File. And I have a 2-second grab from Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. So we select that video and import it. And then all we do is we drag that onto the desktop. Okay, so the tool we're going to be using today is called the Rotobrush tool. It's located up the top here, second from the right. So we left click on that. And then all we do is we double click on the canvas and a new screen will come up. So today we're going to be using two tools, this Rotobrush tool and the pan tool. So if you want to zoom in and out of your image, you can use your scroll wheel if you have a mouse, which I highly suggest you use for this. And then what you do is you freehand draw roughly around the outline of the object that you want to cut out. In this example here, I want to separate Rick Astley from the background. So I just left click and I just draw around Rick as best as I can. As you can see here, it doesn't have to be super accurate. And you can see that using AI, which is built into After Effects, it has tried to predict which pixels are Rick Astley. Now, it's not perfect. What we can do is we can zoom in and we can then just draw the areas in that we think need to be included inside the image. And then this is where we can use the pan tool to move around. Okay, so you can see his hair wasn't caught, so we can select that Rotobrush again and then just draw more of his hair in. Okay, so let's just zoom out and have a look. So far looking good. So what you need to do now is you need to use, you need to track and to check whether or not this Rotobrush works. So what we do is we zoom out and then use the page down key to scroll frame by frame through the animation and to catch any aspects that we think haven't been caught by the tool. So up here, the hair hasn't been caught, so we need to redraw that in. Maybe a bit of his ear here we can draw in. Then we'll zoom out again on his shoulder there. Then what we do is repeat this process. Now, if you're not happy with that background, you can actually change the background so it's easier to see, the separation between the foreground and background. You do this by selecting the Show Channel and Color Management settings. If you down click, and you got the option of Alpha Overlay, and you can see here that the red helps you sort of determine exactly where we've got a separation between the foreground and background. So we'll keep doing that. We'll hit the page down key, keep going through. I might just change it back just so it's easy for you to see in the video. You can see here again we've missed some of his hair, so we'll use the pan to go up. And as I said, we select the Rotobrush again. Now, in the event that, say, you accidentally do this, what you can do is you can hold Alt, and what it does is it removes the section that you don't want anymore. It's really handy because you'll notice, and you'll have to draw it all the way in here, you'll notice that this will be a common problem as you go through and you, as you can see here, I need to hold Alt. Okay, so if we zoom back out and we keep hitting page down key, we can keep checking to see whether, our Rotobrush is keeping track of Rick Astley. We'll keep going. We might turn the transparency off so you can see what has been separated, what hasn't. So press play. So, you need to close this first. Make sure you close the layer. So then we can scrub through and check what we have cleaned so far. So you can see we're now up to this part here, because remember the checkerboard is a transparency. So then what we can do is we can go frame by frame. Okay, we need to, there's the layer. So frame down, and then we grab our Rotobrush tool again. And remember, we double click on image, and then what we can do is we can pan down using the hand, and then we can continue the process by selecting the Rotobrush. We just draw on there. Doesn't have to be perfect, as I said. Okay, so you can see there I didn't quite get his hand there. So let's, and his hair is not quite right. So we'll grab our Rotobrush tool again. Get his ear in. Make sure we get his hand. Okay, so we'll zoom out and keep going frame by frame. You can see it's keeping track of him quite well. Okay, so we'll just close this down, turn our transparency off, and then you can see here that we have removed, using the Rotobrush tool, the background. Now you don't have to remove the background. I could turn this back on and I could either put a video behind it. I could also use change Rick Astley, change colors on him. So you don't have to use the Rotobrush just for removing an object. You can use it to distinguish objects inside. And this is something we might explore in more detail. One final thing I want to show before we finish is if you left click and hold on the Rotobrush, you get the refined edge tool. What this does is if you draw it around an object, is it does what we call feathering. So what feathering means is it softens this layer from the foreground layer, the background layer. I strongly suggest that if you're going to do this, you not only draw the Rotobrush, but once you're finished, you go through and you feather. This requires you to be very careful when you use the feathering. You need to have a very good eye-hand coordination. Otherwise, you can have blurriness and so on go on. And that's it, guys. That's how you use the Rotobrush tool. Thank you for watching this video.